I represent Planckton Data, and we are one of the very early members of Open Footprint. We have been involved with the Open Forum, Open Footprint initiative from the very beginning. And what we do want to present is one of the use cases that we have done. It is an example from a chemical industry and how we have utilized the Open Footprint data model. And what I do want to talk about is about the data model and how we have used it is in the context of what business value has the data model provided to us as Plankton Data, who are a startup in the sustainability data management space, as well as the client. We have also taken the model and had multiple discussions with prospective clients and across industries, even though we are primarily focused on the heavy asset industries, oil and gas, chemicals, etc. But we have also taken the idea of open footprint to a wide variety of potential clients, and we have collected a good amount of feedback from the market, and which is also something I would like to share in terms of where does open footprint really deliver value. So if you look at a typical sustainability standard stack of how sustainability solutions work, it can be divided into three big areas. Sustainability data or emissions data is primarily coming from underlying other systems. So think about when we talk about emissions information, there is a very simple way to look at it is look at it as activity data, which is collected in a system, multiplied with some sort of an emission factor, some calculations happen on top of that, and that results in our emission statements. If that is the very basic flow, of course, there are complexities as we get into industries and specific company instances. But at the very high level, that flow, if we take a look at it, we will have the requirements to load and ingest the activity data, get it into a standardized model. And I think that is a very important piece for us to really appreciate is getting the data in the right standard, right level of granularity at the right level of frequency is really important for the data to be valuable as we go and use it for whether it is for reporting or analytics. It is really important that we get the data in that standardized format. And that is where Open Footprint really comes into play. Open Footprint data model is based on the underlying standards of GHG protocol, ISO, and the WBCSD Pathfinder frameworks. So it accounts for the major emissions data standards that exist, right? So it caters to that. It allows companies to rapidly build on and leverage those standards that are already there in the market. What it does differently from the existing standard. So Open Footprint is not trying to build a new standard. What we are really trying to do is take the standard and convert that into a data model that can actually be used in a solution by the industry, right? That is the main essence of what open source data model really does. It democratizes the model itself so that companies can build solutions on top of that, and which can then store their information as well as any other IP or any other specific workflows they want to run on top of that, right? So that is what the big benefit of open footprint data model is. On top of that, there is obviously, like I said, there are calculations, and there can be platform specific or client specific or industry specific workflows, right? So if I have to talk about value, the point that I made earlier, when we go and we speak to our clients and we explain them about what Open Footprint can do, where do they really see value? The real value is obviously the first thing is about getting things to market quickly, right? It gives adopting organizations a quick start, right? Because it is already aligned to the existing standards. I can start building my solutions rapidly. There is a data model that the industry can adopt. And the data model itself is abstracted to a level that can really translate. I get this question quite a lot, that you have done this in the oil and gas, chemicals, mining industries. will I be able to adapt it to, let's say, I'm from the automotive industry or I'm from the airlines industry, will I be able to adopt it rapidly? The fact that the model is abstracted, and we will get into the details of that a little later, uh, the fact that it is abstracted to a level where it takes care of the standards, but it also allows the flexibility to build a specific workflows on top of that, right? So time to market is the first one. The second is the ability, the fact that it is built on standard underlying frameworks. It gets the data standardized very quickly. It also allows, given that it is also it conforms to the WBCSD Pathfinder framework when it comes to scope 3 or data exchange kind of scenarios. The fact that it is also incorporating a lot of APIs, standard API interfaces, that allows it to be really a platform which can be used for data exchange. And finally, while there is a standardization and the data model is a specific, the data model defines the boundaries and things like that, the most important thing is that the ability to build industry specific use cases, right? So we started in oil and gas, and as we went into other industries like chemicals, we were, with very minimal effort, we were able to extend the model to this to the additional use cases that we came across, right? And not just, again, use cases from an industry standpoint, as well as use cases from functionality standpoint, right? Whether it is regulatory reporting, voluntary reporting, but very easy to move to another space. Let's say we want to do a chemical product carbon footprint. It is very easy to move in that direction. We wanted to highlight the specific the how we have used through a specific use case. This is in the chemical industry, where initially we were invited to do the carbon footprint assessment of one of their facilities, and put in a solution that allows them to track the carbon footprint of the facility on an ongoing basis. Like I said, we were one of the early members of Open Footprint. So we took the model and we built the solution completely on Open Footprint, right? And initially, the use case conformed to the reporting requirements, right? Collect, and this was also very focused on scope 1 and 2. For them, scope 1 was primarily emissions from operations, where they had diesel consumption and propane consumption on facility equipment. And they also had a large part of their footprint was through electricity consumption, where they wanted to automate getting data from a smart meter infrastructure in the state. So, and get all the data, get all the connections automated, and start producing dashboards and reports for that particular facility. So that was the initial requirement with which we started. And that, like I said before, the time to market using Open Footprint was very rapid, right? We were able to put in the solution very quickly. But one of the benefits of that was that we were able to put in the solution very fast, and then we had people start taking a look. So we were doing it in a very agile manner. And when the actual end clients started looking at that, they really started to appreciate the value of getting high frequency, near real time data, and starting to see it on the platform. And then in one of the conversations very early on, they said, oh, by the way, we are also installing one of the largest solar roofs in the state of Texas at that point of time in our facility. Can we start looking at the solar data also in conjunction with the emissions data that we have already incorporated in the solution? And we said, yeah, let's try that. And that is where the flexibility part of the story comes in, right? That we were able to quickly take the solar data set, their projected solar production on a daily basis, in fact, on an hourly basis. And how does that look like if I start to map that to their emissions as well as their actual production data, right? And start to see where can I find optimization opportunities. So we were easily able to add the solar data on top of the existing data sets that we already had and extend the use case beyond reporting to start looking at how can we start optimizing the electricity footprint or the scope 2 footprint in this particular scenario with in conjunction with the solar information, right? So, and I will get into a little bit detail around how this was designed and how the user interfaces and things like that were. But that was the gist of what we were able to do: get to market very quickly, and second, be able to extend or use the flexibility of the model to extend the solution to incorporate a use case which was not even thought of when we started the project. So in terms of getting a little deeper into the open footprint data model itself in action, how this is the data model itself is various JSON schema definitions of the various entities that are required as we are doing emissions accounting, as well as the relationships between them, all the attributes. So what the core of the open footprint data model is the model itself, right? All the data definitions of the model, right? And to understand, while it is a fairly complex model with close to 100 different entities, the important thing to understand is that the way it sets up an organization to start rapidly looking at their emissions information in a structured, standardized manner, right? So there are there are these setup entities. So setting up the organization, setting up organizational boundaries, which impact how your emissions are reported, setting up facilities and equipment that produce the emissions, and then starting to set up the specific data pipelines, right? So how will we ingest the data um, for the different activities? There is a very important thing in the way the data model is designed, which is the level of abstraction that is available for users to work with, right? So, for example, activity data is where the actual emission activity is stored, and that is a very flexible part of the model, right? So, let's take the example of this particular facility where majority of their emissions is because of electricity usage. So therefore, the activity is electricity usage, and I measure that in kilowatt hours, and I record the data every 15 minutes as the data comes from the smart meter, right? So I can model that into the activity data table. But I can also at the same time look at diesel consumption and propane consumption, which is their scope 1 emission. And that data is available through their purchase systems. And the purchase systems gets the data on an invoicing basis on a weekly cadence, right? So the activity data now I can model at different levels of frequency that it is available at, using different units of measure, using different kind of energy sources, right? And that can all be easily modeled into the activity data. And that is just looking at it from an emissions reporting standpoint. But I am also able to extend, and this is the flexibility part that I was talking about before. I am also able to extend the activity data more quickly towards other areas, such as, like I said, they wanted to add the solar generation capability into the data and start doing some modeling. They want to add production data. They want to add grid price intelligence so that they can look at when can I optimize storing the solar energy versus using it for my production. So that extensibility is really the big value that we see as we implement the open footprint model. And of course, after that, the specific use case level flexibility is that once the data is in that standardized format, I can start to specifically extend it towards analytics. I want to use it in any other systems in my organization. And that is where the APIs come into play, right? The model standardizes the data in a way that we are entering the data only once, and then I am able to use it in multiple workflows. So that is really how the data model works to help all of you understand it at that level. In terms of how the user interface that we have developed, our user interface is guided a lot by the open footprint model. So basically, the data entities guide how we want to build the user interfaces. But at the same time, the model allows that flexibility to build user interface details which can be specific to the particular workflow, right? So, for example, I need to start adding solar. I want to see the impact of solar. I can build those widgets as we go along in the use case development. One important thing to really for all of us to appreciate is while Open Footprint provides the data model and the reference APIs and all of that, for the model to really become alive in an industry, the master data and reference data plays a very critical role. How the data pipelines are set up, how we connect to the industry's equipment set, if you may, right? How do we connect to the OT systems, for example? How do we get IoT data? How do we connect to smart meters? Those things are really the extensions that solution builders will build on top of open footprint model. But again, the flexibility is the main thing that drives adoption. In terms of what we can do with reporting and analytics, like I said before, our initial focus was on getting the emissions report out, if you look at how much the data model can do out of the box, if I look at reporting requirements and things like that, it is nearly 100% match, right? But even when we are looking at adjacent use cases or extending the use cases, given that the data is always collected in a granular high frequency manner, it allows us to extend those to other use cases without much of rework, right? The data is already available. So what we say, enter the data once, use it multiple times, right? So that is really what the model is facilitating, right? And those can be extended in multiple directions. It can be a reporting use case, an operational use case, an optimization use case, a variety of how you can use emissions information or energy information in your organization to do all of these, right? The standardized model as well as the API set really allows for that to happen, and not just for internal consumption, right? The big value is when since the data is adhering to all the big global standards like ISO and GHG, it is also allows the data to be exchanged in a seamless manner outside the organization, and it's specifically valuable when we start looking at scope 3 emissions. That was all from my side. I really think I really hope all of you found this to be valuable, and we look forward to having you becoming a part of Open Footprint and really adding to the richness of the model that we have. Thank you.